Start the story. I mean, we could talk hunting, we could talk Spartans, we could talk football, we could talk basketball, we could talk all of it. But really the point is white law. When you graduated, because you were a non-traditional, which I completely appreciate because I was the same thing, which means you were an older student, you were working full time, you're going back to school at night. Congratulations on all that success. That takes grit and resiliency for sure. Talk about building your firm. How did the whole thing start? Let's start at the beginning and just kind of lay it out for the people about your story, because that's what I find fascinating is your personal story. What drove all of it?
Yeah. So really, early on in my life, knew I wanted to be an attorney. We had an experience in 1977 where my family went to a barbecue park down in southern Michigan. And, this is back when interracial marriage was very unique, right? So we stood out like a sore thumb at the lake, and there was a group of drunk men who decided they were going to attack our family, and they did, and they beat my dad within an inch of his life. And ultimately there were some arrests made, but the jury let him go. And I was old enough at that point to know that something was wrong with that picture. My grandfather was the president of the NAACP in Jackson, Michigan for 25 years. Reading and writing and research had always been something that I love to do. My family jokes that I read the newspaper at 4 years old. I don't remember that, but that's what they tell me. That experience definitely led me to look at the judicial system as something that was intriguing. And then I carried that passion throughout my educational career. And really the planning of the firm started right when I started law school. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody else, and I was willing to take a risk and at least try to see if it could happen. So I began planning and researching. I was at the prosecutor's office. I was watching all the other attorneys as they came in and out, getting to know them. And then I was teetering on doing the assistant prosecutor thing. I didn't want to, but it was important to have some level of security as far as the job was concerned. But on the day that I was supposed to sit down with Stuart Dunnings and talk about a job, I resigned. I just knew it wasn't anything that I wanted to do, and I respectfully resigned. So, what little money I could scrape together, Tom, we started out really A-frame place over in Lansing, and I started out in my attic. And this is before we had really good technology. This was quite a while ago. So it was like the great big hunker computers, and it was challenging. And so, we did that. I would meet clients at Burger King. It was just kind of a hit and miss thing. It took quite a while to get some momentum going, but I had early success with trials. I was very comfortable in the trial setting. I won my first trial. I won my second trial, and continued to do that. And, that was very helpful because word went out through the community. And I was able to establish myself as somebody that could conduct a trial, which isn't the case with a lot of lawyers. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of them, but there's different skill sets. Like I could never do tax, right? But there's some people that could never do trial law. So I was able to fill that niche, and the word got out, and, one thing led to the other. And before I knew it, I had a nice little office downtown, and continued on. When I say we, I had like a part-time law clerk at that time. Ultimately we got to a point where we could start to grow. And in large part, that growth has been due to technology. One thing the law has been short on, in large part, has been getting people up to speed with technology.
Well, any business and being an entrepreneur is complicated. So you've got a way to build this. Let's talk about the business side and what you do to get those economies of scale. What are some of the aspects that you do with your practice?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I think that when clients are looking for lawyers, it's important to find somebody that does have a business side to them. I always tell people that the practice of law is relatively easy, and the business of law is what's hard. And I think this pours over into other professional areas, in particular doctors, solo practitioner doctors or multifaceted practices still have the need for business organization. If you call a lawyer and you can't use a credit card, and their emails goofy, that's probably a red flag that you should pay attention to. To the second part of your question, The future of law is very different than it was 25 years ago. It's cloud-based. More than 12 years ago, saw the writing on the wall and began working with cloud-based platforms. And now it's almost a necessity. Lawyers historically have been the last ones to grip technology. Judges clawed and scratched, trying to avoid some of the technology that was available. And COVID changed all that, because they were forced into a situation where, technology was necessary to communicate back and forth, have hearings, conferences, and so on. So technology has allowed us to do things that we couldn't have done before. Digital technology allows me to reach out to people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. And since we've been doing it for the last 12 years, Google has a very powerful algorithm, but it respects seniority to some degree. So we've had a great opportunity to use our technology to reach people all over the place. And we also have developed an incredible network of attorneys all over the country that we've worked with on numerous issues. Currently we're a premier partner with Morgan and Morgan. Everybody's probably heard of them. They're not real big in Michigan yet, but we have a partnership with them, and they are the largest personal injury firm in the world, certainly the country. So that's been a great tool that allows us to, as you said, grow the economies of scale. We don't have to hire, 100 lawyers or, and have a 5-story building, because we're able to network and work with people in a different capacity. And that gives us a real edge.
Talk about the things that you specialize in with White Law.
Yeah, so for the first 10 years of my practice, I primarily at that point I was still growing. So I took a lot of things. It was more of a general practice, but in large part, where I made my hay was in criminal defense, and I was trying cases, and we were, getting more and more clients, and, really establish ourselves in that way. Over the last 12 years, I've been shifting over to more of a civil litigation practice. We in a high level range, we do personal injury work. We've specialized in working with victims of sexual assault. I represented dozens of the women in the Larry Nassar matter, litigated that to completion, which a lot of the listeners are aware of. But we also were involved with United States Gymnastics. We're involved with the lawsuit involving the Boy Scouts of America. I'm in the process right now of hopefully passing a bill in January that's going to allow victims of the clergy to come out in Michigan and have access to the courts. So, we've enjoyed helping victims in that regard. And, hopefully that's one of those areas where you hope that it goes away for the sake of society. But as we sit here today, we're still doing quite a bit of that.